welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another video. Today is a very great day and I'm using this beautiful ring light today. It's the first I'm using it officially. When I was unboxing it I did it, but now I am using it, so I am actually feeling the value of it. Let us say the value of it. In this video I want to talk about buying property in Jamaica, whether you are locally or whether you are internationally. The value and the type of land, or you should buy land in Jamaica, and whether you should use a real estate dealer or you should go and buy it from the owner, which one is more feasible or cheaper. Actually, it is very much cheaper when you go. It is cheaper when you go and you buy it from the person that is selling. So buying the property in Jamaica, what are the pros and the cons? Which is cheaper? You would ask, which is cheaper to buy, either from the owner or through a realtor? Buying through a realtor, it's good and it's bad. The good thing with a realtor is they know where the location of the property is, and they know the owner, they know where the location the owner is, and they know the vendor. Well, the vendor is the seller. Vendors are always the seller, right? So they know. But the downfall with the realtor is that the vendor will be selling the property for $100, right? The vendor will be selling it for $100. When the vendor uses the realtor put on their markup on it. They will increase it by, say, 10%. 10% of the $100. And then eventually you will end up paying at least $120,000. Just an example, $120, just an example of buying property. If you walk and you look and you see, like for instance, you see somewhere and it's selling or you like it, and buying a house or property, you like it and you ask the neighbor, who is the owner for this property? And they said, oh, is Tom Jones or Tom Jones, and you find the owner, and the owner selling the property. You talk to the owner sells you the property at their selling cost. But when you use a realtor, the realtor has to put a markup on it. They has to put their sale cost on it. Because they have to make a profit, because they find the product, they are selling the product. You are the buyer. From the realtor, they make a percentage of it, and you, the vendor, has to get his costs that he charge, the cost that the vendor charge, and out of the vendor's cost, he has to pay an attorney. You who is buying, you have to get an attorney as well. And there is different type of attorney. A property attorney that deals with property, houses, land, building. You have those type of attorney that deals with selling of property. You can eventually, for instance, you are buying the land through the housing trust. You don't need to use a lawyer. Reason being, the vendor attorney is the one that will transfer the vendor attorney is the one that will do the transfer of tax receipt to the tax office with your name on it. They will do the transfer of water, letter, give you the letter to go to the NWC, to JPS, that is the vendor attorney. They will give you the letter of transfer to the stamp office. They do all these transfer and on the vendor behalf. You the buyer. Now why you need an attorney? You need an attorney to oversee the procedure that it goes right. That's what they're telling you, it goes right. They just look into the documentation that you receive, nothing much. But the vendor attorney is the one that do mostly transaction with regards in selling of the vendor's property to you. So the vendor attorney now, he or she is responsible for taking care of all the transfer of title, adding your name to the title, removal of name and addition of name to the title, whether to the lands department, the title office, the tax office, the stamp office, all these places. The vendor attorney is responsible for all of that. You, the buyer attorney, your attorney that you hire to oversees your buying, sometimes it doesn't even worth it, because if the vendor's attorney doing and you can read and write, you can even represent yourself. You can represent yourself in buying a property. You don't need an attorney in to say to buy, because the vendor attorney is the one that will transact these transactions. But the reason why you need an attorney as a buyer is for your attorney to oversee that all documentation is in the correct procedure. No, this part is what are the documents needed to buy a property. You need a national ID, and not national ID only, you need an ID, a government issued ID, whether it is a passport, a driver's license, it is your national ID. If you are here in Jamaica as a citizen buying a property, your TRN, your NIS, your IDs, government issued, a valid government issued ID is required to buy any property in Jamaica, right? If you are buying internationally, you need to have notary public sign some documentation. You need to have ID, your ID is overseas ID, because as an international person you can buy your ID. You can even show your housing trust from overseas. If you are living overseas and you just go on the website and you see all that is required. And to buy property in Jamaica, you have to make sure that you have the portfolio number and the volume number, right? The portfolio number comes with the land. To get the land address, it has to have a portfolio number. Things required in buying land: you need to have a valuator, number one. A surveyor and a valuator is two different things. The surveyor measures the land. As a surveyor, he measures the land to make sure that you are getting the equal amount of quarter acre, 2 acre, 1 acre, 1.5 acre, 20 acre, 30 acre. Value, survey the land, mark it off using a card or a string with a tape measure to measure, to buy, to make sure that you are getting the right amount of land and you're not trespassing in the neighbor's part and neighbor not trespassing in your part, right? A valuator now, he comes and he values the land. For instance, your home, you're buying a house, a fixer of a house. This is where a valuator comes in, and a structural engineer also is required if you willing to do so. If you want to do so, you can get a structural engineer. A structural engineer is someone that an engineer that come in to test the sturdiness of the property, if so required. It's not a must that you have to have, and you don't need an engineer for land. Only thing you need to get for to buy a land, the only thing you really need to buy a land, you need to have a surveyor, a valuator, right? That deals with these type of land. The valuator ensure that you are getting. So I was saying that the evaluator he or she ensure that you are getting the value for money, right? Whether it is a evaluator can increase costs of a building or a land, or a evaluator can decrease the value of any of a house or a land, because if a vendor is selling a property, right, and you look on the roof, and when you look, you see the roof of hole. For instance, the roof of hole, there's crack in the wall. There's crack in the wall, there is the doors, the windows are damaged, and for instance, selling for, as I said, $100, and you look, you see the doors damaged, and you see the windows damaged, you see toilet inside of the bathroom, the toilet fixtures break up, you see kitchen counters damaged. This is buying house, right? You see kitchen counters damaged, and you write that the valuator now write down what he sees, right? And then there and go, there is a deduction in the property, because even if you see a person selling properties on website is valued 20 million, the cost of that 20 million can decrease by a valuator. Reason being, why you go in and you see the faults, properties finds fault. This is why some people selling property now, they go in and they fix all that is there that need fixing, and they come and they get a valuator, and they evaluate and they sell it. When you come and you see that there is nothing to be done to it, you cannot ball on the price. But when you go in there and see broken toilet, broken kitchen counter, broken window, broken doors, broken roof, and then you have to go in and you're going to have to change out everything. You're going to have to pay this window. The valuator now, he is the one that can bring, he or she can bring the value down to a cost. This is why buying from a vendor itself is more valuable than buying it from a realtor. What am I saying? Because what if I turn a realtor right now? It is the truth, whether it is truth, and all the evaluators know that this is true. Sellers, realtors know that this is truth. So when you are buying the property, you need the evaluator, the surveyor. You need to get the portfolio number, the value number of the property, right? The address. These things are required for a property. When you're buying property, you don't buy property without proper documentation. Like, for instance, somebody selling a proper piece of land, right? They're selling a piece of land. House cannot sell like this, because once a house is on a property, therefore you have to have real paperwork to sell that house. And house sells with land. So now, when you are buying a land from somebody, you don't just give them money like that. You don't just give them money like that. You ensure that they have title that can be transferred to you. You make sure that the name on the tax receipt is theirs. You cannot buy property from someone that does not have their name on the title selling you. Because people will sell things that do not belong to them, right? people will sell things that do not belong to them. Sorry. So when you're buying property, you ensure that who you're buying the property from give you a proper receipt. Stamp office has to be involved, tax office has to be involved, lands department have to be involved, title office has to be involved, the administrative general office has to be involved. These are the entities that are responsible for selling property. The reason why these entities are involved is to make sure that there is no fraud going on with a purchaser and a vendor, because people do sell things that don't belong to them, especially land. And if you see a house selling for $5 million, like energy is giving 7.5, come July it's $9.5 million. Now, if you are getting that $9.5 million, the housing trust has their attorney. And title has to be involved. Real proper documentation has to be involved. So you won't get too far in fraud when these government entity involved. But when you're buying, just be getting up and say, okay, a man said, oh, we have a 100-acre land and we're cutting up and selling. You cannot buy land like that. It has to go, you have to have a proper title, proper documentation in buying land here. So you can buy land here in Jamaica from any walks of life, as long as you have the national IDs, you have a TRN. TRN is like a social security number. In the United States, it's a social security number. In Jamaica, it's a TRN. TRN can be get from as young as a child is born. If a child born today, a child can get a TRN tomorrow. TRN number doesn't change. That's the only number doesn't change when it comes on to legal documentation. A TRN card number does not change, and it does not. And every one of us here in Jamaica is required to have a TRN. TRN is what I used to do all business throughout, wherever. Your TRN has to match your name, whether you are married or married not. Your TRN has to match your name. The TRN goes with you up until death. Your national ID number, your passport numbers, these numbers, driver's license numbers, these numbers change. Only number hasn't changed is your NIS, and the NIS can change, I should think. Your NIS and your TRN, that number doesn't change. It's for a lifetime. A baby cannot get an NIS. You have to be 18 years and upward to get an NIS card, but a TRN, baby born today, get it. So you have to have these numbers, these TRN and so on in buying property. And my other advice is in buying property. When you're buying property, you buy property with yourself, your husband, I can say family member. Some family member are trustworthy, some is not. So you buy property with your husband or yourself. Husband or wife or yourself. You don't buy a property with a friend. Friend is not someone you buy property with. You do not buy property with strangers. Say, okay, we are friends, I am going to be buying a property with you. No, you don't buy property with friends. Either your husband or your wife. That's how you buy property. No cousin, no brother, no sister. You buy property with yourself and yourself only. This is how you buy land. And also when you're buying land, you go and you look for yourself where it is saturated. If it's, you look around, because once upon a time I was going to buy a house in Harborview, right? And when I go to, it was selling cheap at the time. I could afford that house by myself. That house was selling 2.5 million at the time. It was a very huge house, but there was some factors. Harborview is a very nice place. Harborville, Jamaica. It's a very nice place. It's beautiful. I like out there. And it's close to sea, it's close to the airport, it's close to St. Thomas, it's close to a lot of amenities. But why I didn't buy the house was underneath a cliff. And there was a digging, like if earthquakes come. I don't know how it is because I haven't been there back to look and see if the house is standing or if anything has happened. But there was a house on top of it and the mountain was digging under over that house. That's why they were selling it very cheap. Right? They were selling it very cheap at the time. And at the time, if I did buy it, I would be living there right now. I would be living there right now, but I did not buy it because I did not trust the location of it. But house costs, land prices are skyrocketing. I don't know why it is over the top right now, but it's over the top. But the requirement is you have to have your paperwork and if you cannot read when you're buying these things, you ask somebody that is trustworthy that can read, that won't lie to you, to get you the right information and the right understanding that you require to buy the property, right? So buying property is not hard, it's just the money factor of it is required and documentation to get the legitimacy of purchasing this property in your name that is really required in purchasing property. But because of the cost of things right now, you are unable to. But this is how you accumulate buying of property in Jamaica, right? And you can buy property and you have Elan Jamaica where you can go on and check to see the location, the right owner, the address, everything that is required. So it is not a bad thing, it is a good thing, but there's a lot of land that is selling, that a lot of places, but where they're selling is sometimes it's far from where you want to live. But because the internet is here to make money from nowadays, you can even buy it and just stay there and just make money and don't have to work with someone, because that's what I would love to get done. I would love to can generate money on the internet without even thinking to go anywhere for work. Anyway guys, thank you for watching, thank you for being a part of my channel. Hope you find this video interesting of how to purchase land in Jamaica. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again in my next video.